I rose to the top of the industry, built the business out. We expanded into Saudi Arabia, to Colorado, Florida, very, very successful business, but never a passion of mine. And I was always really looking for the way out. My first advice for people getting going is find a business partner who's going to complement you. Find somebody who's going to be up when you're down. We did just under 200,000 last year. In the very near future, I think we could be doing 4 or 5 times that.
Just to start it off, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background as an entrepreneur. Where were you before starting this company? Is this the first venture you did, or how did you get to this place here?
No, not my first venture. In fact, this was probably 15 years into my career. My career started in Saudi Arabia. I was brought on to help to develop the first environmental business in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia back in 2001. We were super early, way ahead of our times, and it didn't really work out. But I, learned a ton, made incredible connections over there, and it was incredible. I was a 22-year-old kid flying around in private jets, meeting with CEOs of massive German environmental engineering firms and the likes of Halliburton and Bechtel, and it was incredible. I was too young and naive to understand how in over my head I was, but yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. Then I had one more job for 2 more years, and then I became an entrepreneur. So let's see, it's been now 17 years as an entrepreneur. And I've co-founded a nonprofit in Brazil, the Brazilian Green Building Council. We brought LEED certification to Brazil, which I'm very proud of. We've got over 1,000 buildings now in Brazil that are LEED certified, and spent all my money there. It was a nonprofit. I was on a tourist visa because I was there with a girlfriend, Brazilian girl, and I found myself with, searching through the couch cushions. And then I got an opportunity to start a business in New York City that was completely outside of my zone of interest. And it was going to be very lucrative, but not something I was entirely interested in, which was hotel furniture, fixtures, and equipment. Not a passion, but it was going to refill the coffers, and it was going to allow me to put some money aside and then eventually go and focus on what I am passionate about, or was at the time. I was going to do it for 3 years, maybe. 3 years turned into 12 years. I rose to the top of the industry, built the business out. We expanded into Saudi Arabia, to Colorado, to Florida. Very, very successful business, but never a passion of mine. And I was always really looking for the way out. And so eventually there came a breaking point where I was at a conference, and it was a convention, and I was showing this client this carpeting, and she was asking me about the carpeting, and I just couldn't bring myself to care.
Wow.
I just couldn't care less about the pile height in this carpet. And I knew at that time that I had to move on to my current business, Ned. But
Right.
backtrack 2 years from then, I had spent 2 months living entirely outdoors, backpacking, camping, all through Colorado and then into Utah, working the whole time. Nobody knew I was gone, but I was living outdoors. I didn't go inside except maybe to buy some groceries here and there.
Yeah.
And it was a really healing time for me. I really found a deeper connection to nature. I was incredibly healthy. I was just functioning at the highest level I have as an adult.
Right.
And really found my passion there, which is to help people find a deeper connection to the natural world like I did, and help them heal and thrive like I did and eventually did. And I spent a bit of time thinking about what that's going to look like. I had these big grand ideas. It was going to do everything. It was way too big. So I eventually began to focus in on one thing, which was the product side of that business. And that's really how Ned came about. That and my mom's breast cancer. She had breast cancer at the same time. I started doing as much research as I could for her to find out how she could help battle her cancer through nutrition. Also, I was a competitive marathon and ultra marathon runner, and
Wow.
I was looking for the best supplements, the best nutrition, the best diets, the really all the ways I could optimize my performance.
Sure.
And developed a big passion for natural alternatives to pharmaceuticals. And I say that because I've also, unfortunately, like so many of us have seen the catastrophe that parts of the pharmaceutical industry have caused for this country. and
Totally.
felt that personally through the loss of friends and family, and just seeing a lot of misdiagnoses as well. Um,
Totally.
so yeah, I wanted to create a business that was all about natural remedies and helping people find natural alternatives to things like Adderall and Ambien and Zoloft and all the other stuff. So, and also honestly, Red Bull and alcohol and
Yeah.
all the things that we put in our bodies with guilt, right? And we
Totally.
know that there are side effects, and we want to be able to have the benefits. So we create natural remedies that the side effects are like you sleep better,
Sure.
and the side effects are you're healthier. So
Yeah. No,
yeah,
that's very cool to hear, and that makes a ton of sense. Having that, the desire to create something that's natural, a natural remedy, apart from all these unnatural things we have around us, and you had the personal connection of some things happening around you that inspired it, and that's very
Mhm.
cool. And it sounds like you had some experience from your own life of kind of doing your own research. But I'm curious how these big ideas of wanting to bring natural remedies have not really coming from that background work wise. How did you end up developing these products here?
Yeah. Well, I'm not a scientist. I'm not a chemist. I'm not a
Right.
nutritionist. I'm not a doctor. And fortunately, I know good people who are.
Yeah,
And as an entrepreneur, that's part of what you do is you bring people together and you create a team and you focus in on your needs and you find the people who are also passionate about what you're doing and able to lend their expertise. So back then, I was lacking in the ability to create the formulas. That's changed since. But my skill as a business leader is to bring those people together. So really,
sure.
it started with that and finding the absolute right business partner and co-founder in my partner Adrian. He's the man. So
Yeah.
yeah.
In general, your partner, how do you guys split the responsibilities? You talk about him being a great partner. That's just like complementing your abilities, or what do each of you guys bring to the table in this business?
Yeah, when I was starting thinking about the business, I was thinking, one of the reasons I wanted to create my own was because I felt like nobody was really doing it well or right. And I felt like there was a real opportunity to do it better through greater transparency, higher quality, better customer experience. And what I was going to need was somebody to be able to tell that story of why, why is this better? Why is this slightly more expensive? What's up with this? So I knew we would need a storyteller, and
Right.
Adrian is by far the best storyteller I know. He's also, good at everything he does. So he's been able to come in and really, really help out on his side of the business is mostly the brand building, storytelling, advertising, marketing, brand aesthetics, and brand management.
Sure.
And I'm more on the strategy and ops.
Okay.
So operations, production, finance, HR, all the boring stuff so that Adrian can remain as creative as possible.
That's cool. It sounds like you guys complement each other very much in those roles in the business, and that's cool how you're able to find a partnership like that. Yeah, I think a lot of times with entrepreneurship, people can have too much of a solo mindset, and it sounds like you guys were able to do something pretty incredible by teaming up together and putting your
Yeah.
skills.
Well, I was fortunate that I got sick of being a solo
Yeah,
entrepreneur,
yeah.
and I spent 14 years doing so. And I
Wow. Yeah,
wanted to have a business partner, and it's
yeah,
been great. It's like my first advice for people getting going is find a business partner who's going to complement you. And
totally.
it's inevitable that there's going to be times when you're down. Find somebody who's going to be up when you're down, and
Yeah,
who you can bring up when they're down, because
yeah.
it's just inevitable.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to take us back a little bit here to when you're starting this business, specifically just startup actions you have to take. Obviously, working with the manufacturer,
Mhm.
developing the company itself. How did
Mhm.
you go about doing these? Obviously, the formulations. It sounds like you worked with a lot of people on these, but a manufacturer itself. How did you go about manufacturing the process? And
So we started with CBD products.
okay,
Those were really helping my mom. They're helping me as an athlete, and they were helping friends of mine. And it was before CBD was what it is or what it became. It was only 3% of the U.S. population knew what CBD was at the time.
wow,
But anyways, to answer your question, we started out super simply, really focused. Everybody said you got to have this SKU and that SKU and a SKU for
yeah,
dogs, a SKU for kids. And we said, we're going to keep it super simple, MVP style. We're going to launch with 4 SKUs and we're going to use a white label company to make them for us. And we don't really care what the cost is. We're all about creating the highest quality product possible. And then once we've got that dialed, we can work on reclaiming margin. So that's exactly what we did. Eventually, we brought it in-house, the production in-house. Adrian and I, we learned we could brew up $500,000 worth of our product in an afternoon, and we would save $40,000-$50,000.
Wow.
Just by bringing it in-house. So that was a big learning, and also a big hockey stick moment for us in terms of margin and profitability. But yeah, we started simple, and we started by just working with a co-manufacturer, white label company. And then knowing that we could bring it in-house, we could work on, margins on ingredients through economies of scale and better sourcing.
Did bringing it in-house, did that require like certifications, inspections? No, you guys were able to do it.
Yeah, so CBD industry was and still is entirely unregulated.
Wow.
Now, we did work in a commercial kitchen. We wore hair nets and lab coats and all the stuff, but there was no one or no body looking over us, and that's that was cool because we could do that, and it felt very Wild West.
Yeah, I can believe it. So developing the product, it sounds like you guys got a lot of this down, brought a lot in-house, and you had some very good principles to build the business off of and create a very good product. And upon having this product, what was your strategy in terms of getting it to the public, right? Where'd you guys start as far as selling it, as far as marketing goes?
Well, at the time, and again, this was CBD, we weren't able to advertise on Facebook or Instagram or Google. So we found ourselves, and we didn't know this going into it. We found ourselves at a distinct disadvantage. I had always been a big podcast listener, and I thought that we had a great story to tell. And I reached out to a few of the hosts of the podcasts I was listening to. One in particular put us in touch with this guy. He was a junior at UCSB, and Jordy Hayes, and he is a legend. He just had his finger on the pulse of the podcasting world in Southern California, which was the place to be for health and wellness. And
what year are we talking about here?
This would have been 2018.
Okay.
And we reached out to him. I called up one of the hosts. He put me in touch with Jordy. I talked to Jordy. It was supposed to be a 15 or 30-minute call. I forget. It turned into a 2.5-hour call.
Wow.
He loved what we were doing. He said, listen, I don't think that host is the right one for you guys. Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. He called us back 3 weeks later. He goes, I've been really thinking about this, and I think you guys should advertise on a show called Mind Pump. And so we started working with them. They were super picky. They were they vetted the hell out of us. We sent them product. We sent them more product. Eventually, we were on a number of calls. Eventually, they had this doctor come on, and they called him Dr. No because he basically would try to poke holes in all the companies looking to work with them.
Yeah.
And, his job was to find the reason to say no. We talked to him for 45 minutes. He asked us all types of hard-hitting questions. We had the answers because we always do things right. And we passed his, very critical muster. Then they said, all right, cool. You guys can advertise with us. It's going to be $7,000 for the first 2 episodes. And we were like, all right, we have $6,500. Should we do this or not? And, we slid our chips in, and it was our first hockey stick moment. We did $8,000 the month before, or that was in September of 2018. We did $8,000. Next month, we did 30, 60, 90, 120, just in those 4 months.
Wow.
We went from 8 to 120 in 3 months.
And was that off that podcast, or was there other expansion efforts?
It was mostly off the podcast. We were also guests on 3 other podcasts, but the vast majority would be attributed to Mind Pump.
Wow. That's very cool that you guys figured out that the opportunity, that situation of not being able to advertise on Facebook and Google and basically every service, how you guys still managed to find a way to get your product out there.
Yeah. And then we found other ways too. Podcasting has always been a really big channel for us. They tell the story, and they tell people we never work with a podcaster until they've tried our products and they have feedback for us. And we never give them a script to read or anything like that. It's just tell your audience about your experience. And so that's been really good. Newsletters have also been really good for us. We found some really good traction there. And then eventually when we were able to get on Facebook and Instagram and Google, we had campaigns already built for the day, the hour, the minute that it would happen.
Sure.
And so we were one of the first companies in our sector to be there. It was hard, like we spent a lot of time battling to stay on, having to really know the system and work through it. But it was incredibly successful.
Totally. And it sounds like, so you guys started out just selling direct to consumer from your website.
Yeah, all direct to consumer.
Wow.
We dabbled very briefly in retail, didn't see the return that we were seeing on DTC. And just this year, I guess just in the last 3 months, we got into Air reached out to us.
Nice.
And
So they reached.
they reached out to us, which I've come to learn is quite rare.
Yeah.
One of our favorite quotes is from Steve Martin, and it's "Be so good they can't ignore you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we really feel like that was the case there. And
That's very cool.
yeah, and so that's with our magnesium product. That's Mellow.
Yeah.
No hemp there in Air One. And we've really pivoted from CBD to magnesium and just really see the future of the company there. And the numbers show it too.
And what has been like the main reason for that pivot? Just the numbers showing that? Do you see more evidence behind the products? Are they easier to get a widespread audience from?
Yes, and yes. And we never set out to be just a CBD company. We always wanted to help people, heal and thrive through a connection to nature.
Sure.
And so it's always been about natural remedies. We just so happened to have launched with CBD because it was right here in our backyard in Colorado. But we always wanted to be a well-rounded wellness company. And magnesium, it really fits into our ethos. The reason why magnesium is because the vast majority of Americans, over 75%, are magnesium deficient.
Wow.
And that is because it's been stripped from our soil from over farming, monocropping, big ag, and it's just not in the soil anymore. So
Sure.
Magnesium is an essential mineral that helps regulate over 300 functions in the body, and we're all walking around without enough of it. And it's basic things, but very fundamental things like sleep and stress and depression and recovery, relaxation, anxiety.
That's very cool. See how that pivot took place. And yeah, I've known a bit about magnesium, but that's cool to hear from you how impactful that can be to get people back and cure that deficiency. In what other ways would you say over the course? So you guys launched back in 2018, it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
In what other ways has your company pivoted and grown since then?
Yeah, well, we've always, Adrian and I, before we even started the business, our first meeting was to go climb this mountain here outside of Boulder, South Arapahoe Peak. And we never made it to the top. This blizzard came up and it was full on conditions. But I always say it was the most productive day of the business because it was that day that we laid out our principles, and that gave us the guardrails to make decisions. And that has saved us a ton of time and a ton of costly mistakes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it saved us money. Basically, the part of those principles is, always do what's right, never cheap out, create the best products possible, and basically approach it all from a standpoint of the golden rule and karma, which is, do unto others as you would wish done unto you. And the belief that if we do good for people, they'll do good back for us. So yeah, we've got those guardrails to help us make those decisions.
That's great. And that's very cool to hear the value that you built into brand by following through on those actions. I'm curious also along this, at what point did your brand get involved with Amazon?
A year ago.
And
then a year and a month, almost, December of last year, and 2 years ago. And we got off to a rocking start, like top 99th percentile.
Wow. And
then we really plateaued in the middle of the year. And then we were working with an agency through that. We were just misaligned with the agency. They didn't really, I don't know how to put it, but they were getting paid. And
they're incentive.
They thought we were doing we were doing okay, but relative to our competition, we were doing a pittance. And on our competition in direct to consumer that we crush, we were a fraction of what they were doing on Amazon.
Sure.
And so nobody was content with that here. So we pivoted to a friend of mine who has a very small agency called Tree Run, and he has been amazing. He's been able to, he's really kept his finger on the pulse of it. He's checking, he's in it. and he's incentivized. He makes 10% of whatever we make, no matter what. That'll scale all the way up until, forever, hopefully.
Yeah.
So, he's incentivized, and again, it's what he's doing, and he knows the ins and outs of it. He's a really good guy, Sam Sklauer.
That's cool to hear how you were able to figure that out and choose something that's more aligned with your business. And it sounds like since then your sales have grown and it's definitely gone in the right direction.
Yeah, it's going in the right direction. We're still not even close to where we want to be.
Right.
We're a year in, and we did just under 200,000 last year.
Yeah.
I think we could be doing eventually, in the very near future, I think we could be doing 4 or 5 times that in the very near future.
Very cool to hear about what's ahead for you guys. And yeah, I believe it for sure.
Yeah, Sam also doesn't have that many SKUs at his disposal. We only have 3 SKUs on there at the moment.
Wow.
4 SKUs. We just put another one on, but it's really one product with 4 flavors. And it's all at a $48 price point. So we're giving him a bit more ammo with 10-pack of single serve sticks that are going to be at $22. And the thinking there is that we can, hit a much wider audience, bring them in with the $22 price point advertised.
Yeah.
And then they can either choose those, or they'll see a better price per serving on our $48 price.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Bring that intro price to get customers in the door in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious. It sounds like that you set out with your business and you had a lot of those good conversations to align the values with your business that you want to follow to avoid mistakes. But I'm curious if you have an idea in your head, what you think the biggest mistakes that you guys have made along the way are.
I think we didn't have enough humility in year 3 or so. We thought we knew it all. We were crushing. We're number 364 on the Forbes 5,000 list. I think we really didn't have enough humility. And that was a mistake. So, we weren't seeking mentors. We weren't part of the very active Boulder natural food scene. We were just kind of like, we know what we're doing and the numbers show it. And then the numbers, we went from, incredible growth to healthy growth to really working hard to grow. And, it was humbling. And that was a good learning experience.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And that's cool to hear how you were able to react from that mistake and then grow from it.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. I'll talk to you later.
Cool. Yeah, you too. Take care.